What if this summer, instead of trying to operate at full capacity while your kids are home, your goal was simply this: maintain momentum without burning yourself out? Because honestly, your business should survive your kids being home for the summer. And if it can't, that's not a motherhood problem. That is a business design problem. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Sustainable CEO Mom Podcast, the show for service-based moms who are done with hustle culture and ready to build profitable businesses that actually fit their lives. I'm Jenny Sunnison, business strategist, podcast mentor, and the founder of Moms Make Money Collective. Let's build something sustainable. Hey, and welcome back to the Sustainable CEO Mom Podcast, the podcast for service-based mom entrepreneurs who want to build profitable businesses that actually support their life instead of consuming it. Around here, we talk about sustainable growth, realistic business strategy, systems that save your sanity, and what it actually looks like to build a business in the margins of motherhood. And today we're going to be talking about something that I know so many moms are feeling right now as summer approaches or as you're already in your summer, depending on where you're located in the world. So what would I focus on if I only had 15 hours a week this summer? Because for a lot of moms, summer creates this weird identity crisis in business. Your kids are home, schedules change, camp schedules are inconsistent, your routines disappear overnight, and suddenly you're trying to cram a big workload into just 15 hours a week and wondering why you feel overwhelmed, resentful, exhausted, and guilty all at the same time. And I really want to normalize something today. Summer does not have to be your biggest growth season to still be successful. Sometimes the goal is maintenance. Sometimes the goal is sustainability. And sometimes the goal is protecting momentum so that you don't have to start from scratch in the fall. And honestly, that is still smart CEO behavior. So today I want to walk you through exactly what I would focus on if I only had 15 hours a week this summer. What I'd stop doing, how I'd structure my time, what I'd prioritize, and how I'd continue bringing in revenue and staying visible without trying to operate at full capacity. Let's dive in. So first, I would stop trying to operate like it's a normal season. And I think this is where most moms get it wrong. They try to keep doing everything they were doing before, just in less time. And that is a recipe for burnout. Because if you're still trying to launch constantly, post daily, be active on every platform, take every call, create brand new content nonstop, and maintain the exact same output while your kids are home, you're going to feel like you're drowning. There's just no doubt about that. And I say this with love. You cannot run a summer schedule with a regular season business model. Something has to simplify. For me personally, if I only had 15 hours a week this summer, I would intentionally stop launching all the time, daily content creation, unnecessary calls, and trying to be everywhere online. Because during a lower capacity season, your business needs to become narrower, not bigger. So here's what I would focus on instead. So if I only had 15 hours a week, my non-negotiables would be client delivery and then selling, 1 to 2 emails per week, and then weekly podcast episodes. That's it. Because those things directly support revenue, visibility, trust, and long-term momentum. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs overestimate how much they actually need to do to stay relevant. You don't need to disappear all summer, but you also don't need to operate at maximum intensity to maintain momentum. Those are not the same thing. With a 15-hour work week, my visibility strategy would get simpler, not non-existent. And I feel like a lot of moms swing between two extremes in the summer. They either try to maintain full force visibility everywhere, or they disappear completely and then they feel panicked come August when their kids are back in school. And personally, I think there is a middle ground. So if I only had 15 hours a week, my visibility strategy would focus heavily on podcasting, email marketing, SEO, which is working in the background for me, referrals, collaboration, and repurposing. Notice what's not on that list. Creating mass amounts of content every single day. That's not on the list. Notice one thing that's not on the list, and that is creating massive amounts of new content every day. And this is where sustainable business owners think differently. Instead of constantly asking themselves, what else can I create? They ask, how can I get more mileage out of what already exists? And that is a completely different mindset. One podcast episode can become an email, multiple threads posts, Instagram captions, SEO content, talking points for guest interviews, and nurture content. You don't need more content, you just need a smarter ecosystem. Now let's talk about offers because this matters a lot in the lower capacity season. So if I only had 15 hours a week, I would not want 15 tiny offers constant launches, or a super high maintenance business model. Personally, I would prioritize 2 to 3 higher ticket clients max that are on retainers, as well as other forms of recurring revenue. Because the more complex your offer ecosystem becomes, the harder it is to sustain during real life. And this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately as summer approaches. As I'm recording this, my son is literally about to finish school in just a couple of days. Then we have about a week and a half before camp starts, which means I already know my schedule is going to look a little bit different. I already know I'm not going to have the same work capacity. So instead of pretending otherwise, I'm planning for it now. I'm batching ahead. I'm prepping podcast episodes. I'm writing emails, preparing sales assets, and creating margin now so that summer feels less chaotic later. That is sustainable business ownership, not waiting until you're overwhelmed to react. So let's get tactical. If I only had 15 hours a week, here is roughly how I'd structure things. I'd probably do like 6 to 7 hours a week spent on client delivery because client experience would still matter deeply to me. So then I'd spend about 2 hours a week on selling and lead nurturing. So following up with leads, mentioning offers regularly, nurturing relationships, and we're focusing on signing clients for fall. And I think this is important. Just because your schedule is lighter doesn't mean that selling completely stops. You still need to stay connected to future revenue. So don't completely stop selling in the summer. Then I'd spend around 2 hours per week on podcasting tasks. So this could be things like planning, recording, marketing, show notes, working on all the post-production stuff, and publishing the episodes. Because for me, podcasting is one of the highest ROI visibility tools in my business. Then I'd spend about 1 to 2 hours a week on email marketing. I would probably send 1 strong value email and 1 lighter nurture or promotional email every week. Then I'd spend 1 hour a week on the CEO planning / admin tasks. So things like checking revenue, looking ahead, managing projects, reviewing priorities, inbox stuff. And then I'd spend about 1 to 2 hours a week in a deep work block. So this is something where I'm not context switching, I'm not multitasking, and it's not random busy work. This is just deep focused work on the things that actually move the business forward. And honestly, that's probably enough. Not enough for explosive scaling, not enough for doing all the things, but absolutely enough for maintaining momentum. So I also want to talk about the emotional side of this because I think moms carry a lot of guilt around the summer. There's guilt if you work and guilt if you don't. There's fear of losing momentum, fear your income will disappear, anxiety around inconsistent schedules, and comparison when other entrepreneurs seem to be operating full speed year-round. And I just want to say this clearly. You're not failing because your business looks different this summer. You are living a real life. And I think sustainable businesses should actually account for that. Your business should be able to survive summer breaks, sick kids, camp gaps, holidays, messy seasons, and lower capacity periods. Because if everything falls apart every single time life happens, that is a sign that the business is too dependent on you operating at full capacity all the time. And that is not sustainable. So if I only had 15 hours a week this summer, I'd focus on maintaining momentum, protecting visibility, serving my clients really well, keeping revenue moving, and making sure that I don't have to rebuild from scratch in the fall. I would simplify aggressively, prioritize strategically, and stop expecting myself to operate like I'm in a season of unlimited capacity. Because maintenance seasons are still valuable seasons. And honestly, learning how to sustain a business during these lower capacity seasons is probably one of the most important CEO skills that you can develop as a mom entrepreneur. So if this episode really resonated with you, and if you're realizing that you don't need more hustle, you just need a more sustainable way to run your business, I would love to invite you to join me inside the Sustainable Success Accelerator. Because inside, we focus on building businesses that are actually designed for real life. Not perfect conditions, not endless work hours, not burnout cycles, but real systems, real sustainability, and real momentum. I will link the accelerator in the show notes for you. But yeah, I hope this episode gave you permission to stop trying to do everything this summer because you do not need maximum capacity to maintain momentum. And your business should absolutely survive your kids being home for the summer. All right, that's it for this episode. I will talk to you next week. If this episode resonated with you, share it with another service-based mom who's building something real. And when you're ready to move from reactive business ownership to sustainable CEO leadership, your next step is waiting for you. You'll find the right path, whether that's the accelerator, the collective, or a deeper intensive, by going to momsmakemoneycollective.com. You're not just building a business, you're building it your way sustainably. With profit, with margin, and with intention. Because hustle is optional, leadership isn't. I'll see you next week.